Welcome to the HSP and Neurodivergent podcast. I'm Julie Bjelland, and I'm here with
McIntosh.
Good to see you, Willow. How have you been?
I have had an interesting week, which I think we will probably talk about today. A bit of some healing and some evolution and some transformation taking place. But just to keep things kind of simple for this intro piece, I have had a pretty good week all in all. Lots of getting in the sea still. Lots of time with myself. I've been looking after myself, having good food. My cat Sequoia, she had a little injury, so we went to the vet yesterday and had a very cute experience with her just now, giving her some antibiotics wrapped in a little bit of cat food with a little bit of ham, and her kind of watching, sitting above me doing this and then eating it. It was a very cute, intimate little moment of her, I think, just aware that she'd hurt herself and this was helping her. So that was very cute.
That's so sweet. Oh my goodness.
That's
I
cute.
want to share, and I'll share a baby seagull story. And also, my son's visiting me and some new stuff about that. And I thought also for those listeners that are kind of new to getting to know us a little bit of information about us too. I'm a psychotherapist and I specialize in high sensitivity and late diagnosed autism or late discovered autism in women, adult women. And I'm the founder of the sensitive empowerment community and do lots of things. My passions are about really helping us reduce some of the challenges of sensitivity. I'm going to talk about some sensitivity today, actually, so that we can really flourish with sensitive people. I am such a highly sensitive person, and I'm also a late discovered autistic woman. So I bring that to our conversations. Willow, what about you? You want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit to anybody new?
Yes, yeah. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
My name is Willow McIntosh, and I specialize in facilitating purpose in highly sensitive people. And that really expands out into finding our truth and letting go of the false identity that we tend to carry through being misunderstood, especially as children, misunderstood in society, and helping HSPs to let go of that programming and to reveal the amazing abilities that we have, what I call our high sensory intelligence, and how we can really learn to become ourselves in our personal lives, in our relationships, in our business, so that we can really honor the beauty and importance of this trait in the world.
Yes, love it, love it. And you've helped so many people. Willow, what do you want to start with today? Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, let's go on. You fire. Yeah, you go.
Oh boy, I had quite a day yesterday. I always have my morning routine. I go outside and really early, like 5 a.m. usually. And I'd been watching, I think I've talked about this on the podcast. I've been watching this baby seagull on this roof grow up. And, for a couple of months, been watching the parents take care of it. So I woke up and the day before it was actually off the roof and in somebody's patio. And it was kind of lucky that person was not home. It's where we live around a lagoon because I was a little worried, like, I hope they don't chase this bird away. So I was just kind of watching it for a while. The parents seemed to be taking care of it, but it didn't seem to be able to fly yet. It actually couldn't even get out of the porch and it didn't seem injured. So I just kind of watched it for a bit. Seemed okay. The parents were bringing it food. The next day, this baby seagull was in the water and I thought, oh, wow, it got out of the patio. Now it's swimming in the water. Watched it a little longer, realized that it kept trying to jump out of the water, but we have like the lagoon is basically man-made, created like a cement wall all the way around, and it was trying its hardest to get out of the water and it just wasn't able to yet. And I was like, oh my gosh, should I be intervening? What should I be doing? So I hopped on my kayak and I went over to where it was. I thought maybe there's some way I can like get it to like lift up with my paddle or something like that. But I felt like I was making it worse. It seemed to be getting distressed by what I was trying to do. And I thought, oh my gosh. And then it got caught on somebody's rope. And I was just really distressed. And suddenly there was like hundreds, it felt like seagulls swarming around because I'm sure they thought I was trying to hurt it.
Right.
And I just didn't know what to do. And I was watching this poor thing. I did some quick research and it's like, yeah, they really can't stay in the water like that. And, the seagulls can't just lift up their babies. So they weren't able to get it out of the water. So after a lot of different things, I even came back over and I have like this floating dog ramp. I came and got that, tied it up over to where it was, trying to get it to go up this ramp. Wasn't successful because it's not a very wide ramp. And I was getting quite concerned. I thought, if I can't do something, this baby's not going to be okay. And
Call in the
suddenly,
chopper.
yeah, exactly. I was like, what do I do at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Oh my God.
Most of the rescue groups, you have to like get the bird and bring it to them. So I finally managed to, on the opposite side of the lagoon, I remember there was like this cement ramp. And so I was able to corral it over that direction. And these
So it was
seagulls are just
it was able to swim. Was it
it was
able to
able
kind
to
of swim a little
swim.
bit? Right.
Yes, but it was so exhausted because it would just kind of like stay next to the wall, just really exhausted. And I could tell it was just losing its energy. So I went really slowly trying to corral it to this ramp and it passes the ramp. And I'm like, oh no,
My
you
gosh.
can't pass it. It's not going to. So these seagulls are like dive bombing me. And I'm just like, whoosh, whoosh. And then I managed to really gently with my kayak get it back to where the ramp is so that it starts to swim up the ramp and now it's actually on land and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was just like so relieved that it was on land. So I kind of backed up and watched it for a while. I actually had a client I needed to come in and work with. And so afterwards I went and walked over there and saw it was there. The parent was there. Everything seemed okay. And today it's there again and it seems to know how to swim back to the ramp. So I'm so happy.
Oh my gosh, so you showed it how to do that.
Yes. So I watched it come back to the same area and I thought, oh no, because it started to try to jump up the wall again. And I'm like, oh no, same thing that happened. But this time it knew how to go back when it was tired up this ramp.
Oh my
Willow,
goodness.
I was so distressed, but it was kind of like this moment of like, I was aware of like my sensitivity was because you could hardly see that seagull. It was like the same color as the wall and the water. So I have a feeling a lot of people never would have noticed it. And I think it's my sensitivity that helps me notice these kinds of things, And so I think of it like it's so hard being really sensitive and so empathic and empathetic. And I felt so distressed by the situation and so exhausted. But I also found myself grateful for my sensitivity that I was able to know, like to observe. I know everything that's going on in this lagoon. I'm pretty sure more than most people do. And, it was like the day before that, Herman, the green heron that I'm friends with, I had found their nest and I go and visit kind of that area. And I saw one of the babies walking across the road and a car coming. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot watch this baby get hit. And luckily, because I was able to corral it back to land like this, I'm rescuing all these babies right now. I'm like a full-time job.
Wow. Oh my gosh. What an amazing service you provided there, but how lovely you were able to help. And as you say, the sensitivity piece is so lovely how you just described that, because it is that, it's that extra sensory awareness where you're noticing and observing and how that's helping, because that baby seagull may not have made it, or maybe, got washed out to another part of the lagoon or something, or eaten by something.
Yeah. Now I
Yeah.
feel like a grandmother. I have to like keep an eye on this bird. I'm like, I keep checking on it. Is it okay? Is it okay? It's but I was so exhausted after the experience, like because of the distress that I had felt, not sure if I was doing the right thing or making it worse, or that something I was gonna do was gonna hurt it. So it was so intense. And but yeah, it's an example, right? Of our sensitivity is really intense sometimes, and but it has these beautiful pieces to it.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It really does. It really does. I think it's yeah. I mean, it's your relationship with the animal world is amazing. You know, your ability to communicate with them and how they interact with you is amazing. And I think it shows how it's almost like an area, part of your area of expertise. I think obviously you have many, Julie, but I think it is, it's a part of the world that you deeply care about. And it's amazing how our high sensory abilities align with the areas of life that really matter to us. In other words, you're kind of attuned to that. Your awareness is taking in the lagoon, and you are, in a sense, being the grandmother for the animals there to an extent. And I think that's all part of your gift. It's lovely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Next time you should film it. You should film
Yeah,
the
I should have had that
incidences.
filmed. That would have
How
been
long?
good.
How long? How long was that, by the way? Like, how long do you
Oh,
think that?
probably like an hour or an hour and a half, or I don't know. Maybe I actually not good with the timeline of it. I'm not quite sure. It was like several failed attempts, and then I would just kind of wait for a bit and think through, like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be leaving this bird alone? So it was like back and forth a little bit. Um, but yeah, I guess it took me a while to go get my ramp and tie it up on the other side of the
Yeah.
lagoon. I was
My
pretty
gosh.
desperate to help this little thing, little sweet
Oh.
baby.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's so great you've now trained it. So it's probably hopping in there now and then coming out and
Yeah, I was really happy to watch it this morning, like head back to that direction, because I was like, okay, because I wasn't sure if it knew or if the parent was telling it. So I'm like, okay, good. It gets tired and it goes back. So that's really good. And hopefully it's going to be able to fly soon. It's got big
yeah.
wings. It's like close.
Right.
It was also
Right.
nice to talk with you the other day. We had a nice chat on when I was at the beach and I saw all those dolphins, and yeah, share some of what's been going on with you since that
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, that was an amazing conversation. Yeah, I thought it was, it's helpful for you guys listening out there. Maybe some of you that are used to hearing Julie and I speak, maybe you're used to the content that we put out there, used to following us, used to working with us. Maybe there's some of you that are meeting us for the first time. And I think it's helpful to know that even though we're at where we are in our businesses and in our career and in our journey as HSP, it doesn't mean that we've figured it all out. It doesn't mean that we are, perfect in any way. We're still very much in our own evolution. And I'll speak for myself. I am still very much in my own evolution. I'm committed to, in fact, what I've really realized and what was really helpful during that call that we had, Julie, is how committed I am to my truth. And this has been probably the most challenging and the most rewarding journey for me throughout my life, and it's something that I've been deeply committed to. When I came out of my childhood, I was aware that there were big parts of me missing, and I didn't feel content, I didn't feel safe, and I really had to figure out, as many of us have had to do, I really had to figure out who I really was, what I really wanted in the world, and constantly being driven by this knowing in me that I was here for something important. In other words, that I mattered because I was a part of life, and I could feel so much love in my heart, and I had so much care for people generally, for us being okay as people, and just how important we are in terms of our potential and personal development. And that has been what's been driving me. And it has not been easy, I have to say. It has been it's really one challenge after the other. And that is amazing, and it has been, incredibly rewarding. But it is also, it's not a path for the faint of heart. Now, just before I go into the piece that I'm going to share, I do want to reassure everybody listening that this path that we do embark on as HSPs, no matter where you are at right now, there are wonderful realizations and there are wonderful moments that we reach that, the work that we undertake works. In other words, the healing of the trauma that we've experienced and what we've been through in our life, you can come through that. And I have made huge progress in the work that I've done during my life. So I don't want to, worry anyone by saying it's just been a constant upheaval and I haven't got anywhere. That's not what's happened. I have definitely made progress. But over the last week, and this is why Julie and I had this conversation, was that there have been some challenges that I've been facing recently. There's some changes coming in my life, and there have been a few things that have happened at once, and I can go into some of those details in a minute. But I felt overwhelmed, and I felt like there was some kind of change in me happening. And whilst I am always really open to these, and I'm always open to evolving further, it was really hard for me, and I felt like it was a weird experience. It almost felt like I couldn't figure out why I felt overwhelmed and why I felt anxious and unsafe about the next stages in Illuminance, the next stages for me personally. And I realized what was happening was I was actually letting go of another part of myself that was really keeping me away from my truth. In other words, it was another layer that was coming off in order for me to be able to get much closer. And this is probably the point where I'm going to lose it now, because it really is quite emotional for me. But really what's happened, this has been a long time coming in my training and the work that I'm doing generally. But really what happened this week is I allowed myself to fall into myself more deeply. I just found this really beautiful next layer of myself that has felt incredibly loving and incredibly joyful and very playful. And how else can I describe it? It's actually the feeling of a deeper state of myself, but it feels much closer to my heart and my truth. And that is probably one of the greatest wishes for myself, to continuously do that. And I'm still in it, as you can kind of hear from me, as I'm struggling right now. But this feeling of closeness and this feeling of embrace that has happened in the last few days has been just beautiful and profound.
Wow. That's so beautiful, Willow. And I'm so honored that you're sharing that right now. And it's like a connection to, I kind of got this feeling like it was a connection to that child version, that child you, that the purity of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. That was exactly what it felt like, and what it does still feel like. It feels like a sort of a deepening of letting go of that part of myself that has, that was trained to defend me when I was younger, and that that in order to, I think, in order to be safe and accepted as a child, I had to be a particular way. and that wasn't allowing the truth of my inner child to be really met, and it wasn't allowing the truth of me to be really met. And actually, what's happened as I've been growing up, and whilst I have done a lot of work around this, what it's actually allowed me to do is just meet that child in me and meet that part of me that has it has needs, and it, it needs to be seen and heard and expressed, which is, that's the part I feel I'm much more close with. But it also, it feels like, it almost feels like this sort of underlying sense of peace and joy that is just always there. And what I managed to do this week was just get in there a little bit more deeply. In other words, to recognize now that it's safe for me to go in that layer a little bit more deeply, and that there's actually a very beautiful and strong part of me that's in there. It doesn't feel like a sort of a child in the sense of, you know, something that's young and vulnerable. It's definitely being vulnerable that's allowed me to get in there. But actually, as I've come into it, it feels really strong and powerful, and but paradoxically really gentle and really loving and just really safe. It's quite difficult to describe, but I think the inner child piece, I think I allowed myself to be that and bring that forward. I felt safe to be that and bring that forward, and it's just kind of emerged through.
That's so beautiful. I'm actually tearing up about it too. It's been, I think it's like a part of you that I have always seen kind of and connected to in you. And it's such a beautiful part of who you are. And it's almost like I can imagine this inner child connecting to the adult you and like being really seen and cherished and held for, like, I don't know, maybe the first time in this kind of a way.
Yes, yes, I think that's right. Yeah, yes, I think that's right. I think it is. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. It also feels like, it feels like the this soft kind of vulnerable part of me actually felt feels much more aware and grown up in a sense than the part of myself I had to let go of to get there. So in other words, the part of myself that I had to let go of to get there was a part that had an element of control over things, where there was almost like a routine that it had that made things work for me in a sense. So the part that runs the business, the part that gets things done, the part of me that kind of presents itself and is seen in the world. But the reason why I was struggling and why life is throwing stuff at me at the moment is because that part of myself doesn't really know what it's doing, and it's just it's running on a series of programs that really are fear based and um, are are just kind of, they figured out a way to get things done and be a particular way in the world, and that's what's evolving, that's what's shifting. So I'm going into, I'm evolving into another level of myself, but in order to do that I have to let go of this part that is trying to control things in this way, or thinks it knows best. But what was so interesting is when I allowed myself to go into this deeper part of myself, that deeper part of myself just knows what it's doing. It had, yeah, all of these answers came to me. Like I suddenly saw different ways that I can, bring much more value to Illuminance, and how I can really embrace what I do, and my relationship to various different aspects of my life. As I kind of went in there, it just knew. I could see exactly that it just knows how to do all of that stuff if I just allow it, rather than have this piece that's over it, assuming that it knows best. Does that make sense?
Wow. That's really beautiful. Share more about that.
Um, So, for instance, what's an example of that? So, there was a very interesting piece that came through around the way in which I can see the work that Illuminance is doing in the world. So, in Luminance, as many of you know, obviously, is the work that I do. So it's the name of our business. And as I kind of went into this deeper part of myself, I actually saw the embrace of Illuminance, and I saw the intelligence of it, and the energy of it, and how it has this care for the work that we do in the world, and how it kind of has this loving purpose that it's trying to do through me, and this deeper part of myself that was this knowing, and is a very sort of knowing, deeper, joyful part of myself. It is directly linked to that work. So, in other words, it's almost like a part of my higher intelligence that knows how to best serve HSPs by helping them to do this work, helping them to really embrace the truth of who they are. But I got to see how this part of myself is interconnected with this sort of greater encompassing purpose that is here to here to align HSPs and work with HSPs. And I saw how some of the vision that I have, there's a vision that I have to create Illuminance centers around the world, to to help train HSPs in person. This is a big part of my vision of what I'm trying to create. And when I was in there, I could see that this deeper part of myself just knew exactly how all that needed to be, and it almost kind of could see it was actually holding the vision for it. In other words, there wasn't so much fear in this deeper part of myself. It knew, it was clear why this is so important. It was clear what that work will be. It was clear on how that could be made possible. Whereas the higher the lower frequency programming in me that has fears around that, as we all do. How am I, how am I going to make sure that's going to be the best that it can be, and all the kind of fears that are around that, and almost the kind of the controlling aspect of what I think that is, rather than actually what that energetic reality is. And that
Yeah.
deeper part of me just could see all of that.
Wow, it's like a deeper knowing. It's interesting. It makes me think about a few things. Like, I think so many of us as sensitive children really learned how to put our shields up in life. How to put the walls up, the shields up to protect ourselves. And if we didn't feel the support that we needed as children, and a lot of our parents didn't know how to support sensitivity at that time. And I was thinking about, like, with the concept of fear and shields up, that there's a lot of energy that goes into that in a way was blocking your ability to go down into like that natural core of yourself, of the intuitive, instinctual part. And it actually makes me connect to thinking about these birds, because a lot of times I've thought about like how incredible it is in nature that, like, how do these birds know how to build these nests, how to do what they need to do to sit on these nests for a particular period of time, how they take care of each other, how they know how to take care of a baby. I mean, all these things are so, there's like this inside of all of us, humans and animals, are these like pure instinctual pieces that are so powerful. And in a way, it sounds like you're saying you were able to kind of remove that shield within the energy that was blocking your ability to go down into that place inside of yourself, this deeper, connected, knowing and instinctual, intuitive part.
Yes, exactly. I love how you put that. That's exactly what it felt like. And it's so interesting again, this evolution piece, because there's been this, well, I mean, it's a huge part of my work that I am so committed to what it means to be in our truth. That's been my hero's journey, if you like. It's the work that I've had to do. I've had to strip away what hasn't been me over the years in order to survive. If I hadn't have done that, I would have gone crazy. I had to figure out that truth. But what's just happened recently is, whilst I've been able to feel the state of my truth before, and that is the place that I facilitate from. It's my natural alignment that I do my work from. I create my videos through, and it's the joy that I feel in the world. But what happened recently is all of that went a layer deeper, and it's exactly how you've just described it. It made me realize that within us there is this natural state that is interconnected with everything. And I think we see that a lot in animals. We see, because animals are so present, they're right in the moment, and they're deeply connected with the ecosystem around them, because their survival is dependent upon it. We can go to the shop and we can buy stuff and cook it on a stove. Well, an animal can't do that. And an animal's got to be locked into the greater process in order to survive. And I think that is what, that is reflective of their natural state. They don't, obviously animals have trauma as well, but they're not operating through the same programming that we are. I think our intelligence and our self-awareness is what allows us to create these false versions of ourselves. But I think ultimately human beings have exactly the same natural state as an animal does. It's a higher frequency, obviously. Well, I mean, I don't want to make stuff up here. What I mean by that is it's a different level of conscious awareness that we have as human beings. But I believe we still have a natural truth of self that is interconnected at a greater level, that has a much higher level of intelligence, and probably is the part of us that would actually solve most of the problems in the world, because we let go of that, that false sense that it's all about me and I've got to defend myself, and I've got, that sort of like the greed that we have as human beings. I think once we actually let go of that false nature within us and truly embrace the actual truth of who we are that is integrated, then I think humankind could achieve some amazing things, and is hopefully where we're headed. But I think it's a natural state we all have.
Yeah, I've always felt like sensitive people are more connected in those ways. We're more connected to nature, to those natural ways of being. I feel like there's a higher connection, a higher intelligence in some ways to, because we've also seen that, like when we've guided clients we've been working with to kind of touch into these places inside of us. I think there is so much capacity and ability, and you get to see that. I've gone through something similar about the journey you're doing, and that connection to that inner part of myself was it took a long time to get there, to kind of remove my own blocks about how I saw myself as like my inner child, or the sensitive parts of me. And so it always fascinates me, this journey, how I could go from a place of, I, really dislike these parts of who I am before I understood myself, to I really love these parts of myself, to recognizing the power and strength in them, and my abilities that come out of these. It's such a beautiful thing to think about. I often think about that with, even like the children's book that we released. It was like, really, it is such a beautiful thing to me that sensitive people automatically have this awareness that they're like, I'm going to donate copies to libraries and schools. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, because they're always thinking about how can they help others. And they're able to see like these ways of making a difference in the world. And it's just a natural part of who we are. I mean, it's kind of an amazing thing when you think about it, that we that despite the fact that we have these challenges as sensitive people living in a world not set up for us, that we still have this innate part of us that it's like when, and you and I are kind of similar in that way. It's like if there's a piece that we've been able to work through, to connect to inside of ourselves, we also want that others to be able to do that. So, and
Yeah.
sensitive people tend to be like that. It's like, okay, I've kind of figured out this really transformative, like for myself, learning that I was autistic was completely life-changing. And now the women I work with, I get to experience their journeys. And the first thing I wanted to do was do that. It's like, I've learned about this and now I want to help other people. It was just an automatic response. It's just who we are, right? And that's an amazing thing.
It really is. Yeah, it is amazing. Absolutely. Yes, and I think we are generally committed to the truth as HSPs. I think we in whatever area of life it may be. Like for instance, your book that you recently published, your children's book. I think part of what appeals so much to HSPs is there's a very powerful message of truth in that book about HSPs, and that I think that sort of feeds into this passion that we have to want to pursue and support what we know is important and real in the world. Whether it is ecology, whether it is work environments, whatever we're passionate about as an HSP, we're so committed to wanting to know what's real and true, and how we can be the most real and true that we can be in the world. And I don't think that's because we like the sound of it. I think it's because we can literally feel the pain of being out of alignment and being out of truth with things. And that feeling for us is so grating that we have to pursue and do whatever we can to try to find what's real, communicate what's real. And I think that's why we are, referred to as the spiritual guidance in the world, that we are we're the royal advisors in that sense. I mean, that's partly true too, but I mean, it's partly relevant too to what I mean. But I think we have that sort of guardian nature to us, where we really want humankind to keep things real and keep things on track, that we're in communion with the planet, and we're in alignment with this ecosystem that we're so dependent on. And if we go too far out away from that, all the HSPs are going to revolt in the world to say, hey, can you please slow down and just keep things real, because we're not going to be able to sustain life if we're not keeping things real. I think this is a fundamental part of our role.
Absolutely. I mean, I often think about that, the potential for the new generation of children to be raised without that shield having to be there. Because if they could receive messages from the beginning that who they are is exactly who they're supposed to be, and that to really accept, understand, embrace sensitivity from the beginning. I mean, I just keep imagining the ripple effects of that. It sounds amazing to me. And I have exciting news I want to share with you, Willow. Our hardcover is now available, and it is so adorable.
Oh, look. I love it.
I love it.
Oh, my goodness.
Love the hardcover because the paper is so nice, and we did something where like kids can say this book belongs to, and it's just such a beautiful. It was a beautiful thing that we created, I think, because there's like so many. There's the story of accepting who you are, loving who you are. Giving each book in the series is going to have like certain things that we support the children and the parents with, so like Nico is the highly sensitive dog. He's my real dog. We use real stories. I'm probably going to end up writing about the baby seagull story.
Yeah.
I use a lot of real stories from my life, but I want each book to be something where it's like parents feel like there's a part of them that understands their sensitive child better, I almost imagine like sensitive children just being like, I'm going to bed with this book because these are my animal friends. To be able to feel like you can see yourself in these characters. Like Juju is me as a sensitive, autistic little girl who, has strengths and challenges. And I love the normalization of, one of my favorite parts is, and also the illustrator is an HSP. And I think you can see that in the illustrations because you just you can like feel the characters. One of my favorite illustrations is that they're looking at the clouds. So they're laying down with a quiet activity, and we've got these adorable characters: Nico, Juju, and Buttercup, the introverted calf, and Blueberry, the blue-footed booby bird, which is a real bird. Is kind of the extroverted, funny character. But the idea is like they make these strong connections and friendships, and that the busyness and loudness of the city, they can go to this quiet farm and like go back to that place where, children just were out in nature and it's like looking up at the stars, at the clouds, and watching the clouds go by, and like quiet activities and like normalizing that. And the concept is really normalizing sensitivity and embracing it. So I love the hardcover. It's actually made me feel a lot more proud of the book, seeing it in a hardcover. We're doing paperback too because printing costs are high for hardcover, so we wanted to do like a less expensive version so it would be available for everybody. So we already have book 2 is also getting illustrated right now. And I can't wait because book 3 is like going to be my bird friends, like Herman. I cannot wait to see Herman, the green heron, illustrated.
Yeah.
And it's so fun because we're hearing, and I really appreciate those of you who have reached out and you've done reviews for the book, and that helps people find it, or you're donating these hardcover copies. And I think that together we are really going to make a difference in the world, because I just keep thinking about the generation of sensitive children. This is really for sensitive and neurodivergent children to have characters they connect to and feel like they can see themselves. And representation matters. It matters so much to see yourself represented in characters. And I'm really excited about what is capable, what can come. And it was #1 in new release children's books, which I just keep thinking, like, look at all the people who want this. Like, we need more materials like this. And there's more education happening now. Like, more people are understanding that sensitivity exists, and different than we were children, because that wasn't really talked about then.
Right.
So it's part of a legacy, hopefully, that we raise a generation of children. Like my sons have been raised with the the knowledge about it, the acceptance and embracing about it, and they're such great examples of how they don't seem to have that shield up, like I know that so many of us have had. And they're my youngest is interested in, he's going to be 21 soon, and he's interested in helping in different various aspects of the business, like your daughter does. And that's kind of exciting because he's actually going to college for business. And so there's this chance for him to learn a lot about, all the things that I do in my business. And I think it's going to be really fun to share that with him.
Yeah, how exciting. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yes, very much so. Yes. Yes, I think it's I just love how, as you say, the characters in the book are able to that children can relate to those characters and can see, that it normalizes their experience by seeing that, by experiencing that character in the book. I think that's hugely important. And I love that the hardcover, as soon as you showed me the hardcover, it just reminded me of those books that Lula used to have when she was little. And and even my own books when I was a kid, but they're the ones that survive the hard covers, and they kind of get, they get battered over time, and the edges go soft, and they get scribbled in sometimes. But they're the ones that that you keep really close to your heart as a child, because they don't tear. You know what I mean? You can throw them about or drop them, and they survive. And I think that's when a hardcover really becomes a part of a child's life.
Excuse me. Yes, I agree. Because it reminds me of the books that I used to get for my children too. And it gives me that feeling. And we used to go to the library, and like, I think they were allowed to get like 10 books each. And it was, when they were little, it was so exciting to choose 10 books each time we went to the library. It was like
Wow.
so cute.
Yeah.
So I love the concept of that, and how we can start from the beginning, start early with children,
Yeah.
getting them to learn about the beautiful aspects of sensitivity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the strength too. I think that's what's also important for children to recognize, that the sensitivity doesn't mean that we're weak, and actually the truth within us is a very strong, knowing, capable part of who we are, and a very joyful, a part that we can rely on. I think that's what's such an important message to share for all HSPs of any age, is that the truth of who we are, and that the part of us that um, that is in alignment, or that sort of the higher self that we refer to. It's, whilst that part as a child might have been very unsafe for us to be ourselves as children. I think what's really important for us to recognize as adults is that part of ourself is a very stable, strong, knowing part of who we are, and that we can allow ourselves to trust it again, and we can bring our shields down, and we can learn to be seen and loved for who we really are. And that part of ourself is not a weak, vulnerable part that can't look after itself. In fact, it knows how to look after us much more than the shields and the programs do. And I think it's important that we, have the vulnerability to meet that part of ourselves again, and allow it to come forwards, and recognize that it has our best interests at heart.
Yeah. What would you, excuse me, Willow? What would you like to, what's going on for you? What would you like to share today?
How do you mean? What?
Like in your work, what's important to you to share?
Oh, right. Okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So we are. I'm actually working on a new program at the moment with a colleague of mine, Tina Hansen, and we're creating a. This is not quite ready, but I'll talk about it anyway. It's coming. It's available soon. We're actually creating a new process that is dedicated to HSPs that really want to bring a business forwards. And what I mean by that is, for those of you who are out there who are really committed to your truth and freedom, and that you want to be able to bring your purpose forwards, bring your service forwards, and to have the support that you need to actually create that. So what we're planning on doing is the foundational pieces that will be much of the work that I do, which is about how to figure out your high sensory gifts, how to let go of the programming and the pieces that are in the way of that, and how to recognize what your unique offering is in the world, and who your ideal clients are, and how you can really embrace this high sensory ability that you have, and the value of that. But then we're going to start to help to put in the structure of that, so you can actually so we will help you with just getting a minimal viable product in place, so you can start to get feedback from the world around you of how your value works. Because what we find that happens for us if we get stuck is we have all these amazing breakthroughs, and we get all these awarenesses, but until we actually practice that and start to see the results of being in front of a client or having a discovery call or running a webinar, it's very difficult to actually own our value and recognize that we have something very important. So we're going to be providing that piece, and that's where Tina's expertise comes in. She's worked with over 300 entrepreneurs who are who have been through this process of bringing a piece into the world. So we're going to bring this into the world for HSPs. It's going to be specifically for that HSP that wants to get out of their career. Perhaps you're struggling in your business, but you know you have something really important to share in the world, and we will take you through and provide you with the full process of bringing something to market, and then how we can support you with all the challenges and difficulties that come once you've done that, and how we can actually align you with the benefits and start to get the income that you want, and really enjoy your truth and abundance and value as an HSP.
I love that. And enjoy flexible hours that work for you. Because when you have your own business, you get to do that, because a lot of sensitive people struggle in their jobs, like their 9-to-5 jobs. I could not be in a 9-to-5 job, especially if I'm going to an office. So it's like you're helping them create businesses and services that are actually going to help others, and it works for them, like so that their well-being is there. So that, I mean, that's such a beautiful thing, and an example of your sensitivity supporting other people to step into that part of themselves, and that's such an amazing thing. That's also a beautiful ripple effect, because you know that every single one of them that is able to develop that kind of belief in themselves has such an important thing to share with the world. And that creates a ripple effect, because most of the time they're doing things that are, probably all the time, they're doing things that actually help others.
Yeah.
That's a really important thing to be doing.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And it's, it is absolutely for the importance of the purpose in the world. I think it's incredibly important that we align with our purpose as HSPs in the world. I think what we're here to do is hugely important, but it's also for that part of us that, when we feel like we're in the wrong line of work, or we're working for the wrong person, or, it can be so frustrating to have that, kind of a misalignment again with our truth, and I think can be so painful for us. So
And it's never too late.
It's never too late. My goodness.
Never too late to do
It's never too
this.
late.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mentor, he's just turned 86, and he is seeing clients every day. He's a powerhouse of HSP beauty and power and magic in the world. So it's never too late for us to. I mean, he's been doing it for probably 60 years now, but just to say, no matter what age we're at, we can still make amazing changes in the world. So we are in the process of creating this. If it is of interest and you're thinking, wow, I really want to do that, then the best thing to do is go to highsensoryintelligence.com, and you can book a call with me. And I can talk you through and find out if it's the right thing for you. I can tell you more about the details and the process of it. And it's one to watch.
Yeah. Oh, that looks great, Willow. And yeah, I'll put it in the show notes too, so you guys can click on it easily. Another thing I want to share that I'm loving doing lately, Willow, is consultations with women who are thinking that they might be autistic. And it has been so much fun working with these women. I do assessments too, but that's just in California. So I also do consultations globally, so that I can bring my expertise. So it's not, for the consultations, it's not an actual diagnosis, but it is an identification of autistic traits, which is often enough for a lot of women. And the same thing that happened every time. It's a relief. It's a moment of liberation to finally go, oh, these things that I haven't understood about myself, now I understand it. And even to have the experience of, like, maybe you felt like you're the only one that experiences life like that, and then you're talking to someone who yep, this is what we're seeing in autistic women. And you start to like, wow, there's just this moment of like, this is huge to uncover these pieces of ourselves. And what it does every single time is it moves us from a place of thinking we're flawed to self-compassion. So the piece of, now I understand my challenges, that they're real. And even if other people can't see them, meaning a lot of my challenges might be internal, not witnessed by others, but still experienced by us, to be able to have compassion for that too. I experience that all the time now, like this feeling of, if I'm starting to feel like I'm getting really overloaded, because it's really interesting, sensory overload can activate the amygdala, create that fight, flight, freeze response. And so many women carry around shame about that, whether they have the flee response or the fight response, or maybe they have a meltdown or get burnout, and not understanding that, and the shame that a lot of us carried. But now it's like, oh, okay, we're not going to add that weight of something's wrong with it. Instead, we're going to say, there's a reason your brain is wired this way. It's on purpose. Just like in biodiversity, we need biodiversity in nature. We need neurodiversity in humans. And it's freeing. It's really just freeing to know these parts of ourselves, to understand it. And I'm so honored I get to work with all these amazing women. It's just been really a highlight for me too, to share that liberation, to share that freedom.
I think it's amazing how you're doing. Not only am I hearing such wonderful feedback from these sessions that you're doing, but in my own experience of figuring out the autism piece with your help was just phenomenal for me, and I can't recommend that enough. I think it's it's life changing to have one of these assessments, and I think if you're on the fence about that, I would definitely recommend having one of these assessments with Judy. I think it's just so unnecessary to have to be in the world with this, we in rejection of this part of ourselves because we think there's something wrong. It's such pain. It's such a painful place to be, and the other side of the fence is a whole new world.
Yeah, I love what you said, rejection of a part of ourselves. That's actually really profound, Willow, because that's actually how many of us have been walking around in the world, a rejection of these parts of ourselves. But we've discovered on a personal level and with the people that we work with that it's the opposite of that. That's where the light is. That's where the gifts are. And there's so many beautiful positives about having these high levels of sensitivity and sensory experiences, and heightened empathy. All of that is a part of this. And beautiful,
Yeah,
Willow, so
yeah.
beautiful. I
There's
love
just
it.
one last. Sorry, I just want to add a last piece that you just said there. I was listening to there was a psychologist, I can't remember her name, who works with very high level CEOs around the world. She has a huge impact in the business world, and she said through her life there are two things that she has noticed that are the most difficult for people to contend with, and that's the feeling of not being good enough and the feeling of being different. So for us as HSPs, that feeling of being different and being in rejection of those parts of ourselves can have a really detrimental effect if we're not addressing them and owning them, because there is nothing wrong with you. This isn't a condition. They are abilities. And when we can truly embrace that, and we can learn to really embrace this difference in ourselves, it can be life changing. And there's no need to walk around being in rejection of ourselves.
It is so life-changing. I can't even imagine getting depressed again after knowing this information. I'm not experiencing the anxiety, the depression that I had a big part of my life. I mean, it's because it's exactly that. If you're rejecting parts of yourself, if you walk around thinking something's wrong with you, it impacts literally every single thing you do, personally, professionally, all of it. And it's almost like just being freed from this cage. And I just feel maybe I'm like one of those birds now. I'm just flying. because
Yeah.
understanding these parts and now being able to help others understand these parts is, I am so honored to have these experiences. So
Yeah.
wonderful and
You
beautiful.
found the ramp. You found the ramp.
I love that, Willow. I found the ramp. Wow, that's actually really brilliant. I love that. That's really great. Oh, I love it. This was so fun. If anyone wants to look into having a consultation with me about potentially being autistic, or you want to find the children's books or all the tons of resources I have to help reduce some of our challenges and really flourish in the world, you can go to sensitiveconnection.com, go in the menu, you'll see lots of stuff. I also have a free autism quiz that actually helps a lot of people identify this part of themselves. And also, if you want to, we really do love hearing from you. So please make comments. Please share this podcast. You know, we'd love to hear from you. We really appreciate you sharing and reviewing the podcast so others can find it. And that way we're all helping each other. You can go to hsppodcast.com to be able to see all the episodes that we've done and make comments and see show notes and all that, or on the whatever listening platform you have. I've also started to put some of these videos on YouTube. If you'd like to watch the videos, sometimes I put it on the podcast as well. I want to thank everybody for being with us and listening. If you're still with us, love to hear from you. And Willow, thank you as always for being with us. And it was so fun. It's really nice to be able to chat with you every week and kind of catch up on our lives and about all the discoveries we've been having.
It really is. It really is. I love it. I love it so much. And thank you to everyone for tuning in and for supporting the podcast. And please know that we are here for you. Our communities are here for you. And you know, the more that we interact and support each other, that the easier life is for us as HSPs. So we look forward to meeting you and supporting you soon.
Yes. Take good care of your beautiful, sensitive selves, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.